So I thought I would just start and hopefully get comfortable as I go. So for the past 4 months now, I've been living in a van in Melbourne, Victoria. I wanted to kind of make a video talking about my experience with it, the pros and the cons, because I'm just kind of seeing cost of living continue to go up, and a lot of my friends are under a lot of housing stress, and a lot of those things are what kind of led me to deciding to go this route, and it's been a really positive experience for me. So I kind of thought anything that I might be able to share, maybe someone out there might be able to get a little bit of value out of it, or a little bit of encouragement if it's something that they're kind of considering doing as well. I'm by no means an expert with this kind of thing. I'm still relatively new to it, but I guess there's things that I've learned that might be helpful to someone out there, so I thought it would be worth sharing. So first, I kind of thought maybe I'd start with talking about my experience and what led me to this kind of option. So I was previously living in Adelaide, South Australia, and I'd been living in the same rental for I think 6 or 7 years, a decent amount of time, and I felt pretty stuck in that one place, because the longer I was there, the more I was seeing rent go up around me, especially post-pandemic, and even though I kind of wanted to move, I knew that wherever I went was probably going to have similar issues, and it would probably just be more expensive, and I was already kind of feeling like I couldn't really afford to put money aside to save, and still enjoy myself day to day. It felt like I was kind of having to choose, I guess, between bills, enjoyment, saving. Felt like maybe I could achieve 2 of the 3, but not really all 3, which was causing me a lot of stress. I couldn't help thinking about the future and how if things kind of keep going this way, then it's getting less and less achievable to buy anything in the future, and then also rent just keeps going up and up, and I was just kind of what is the point in this? I'm just gonna keep having to choose between enjoying myself now or saving for this potential future. The other thing being as well, I'm single, and I have been for a while, and I enjoy my life just being single too. That might change at some point, but I don't want to feel kind of I have to be in a partnership to be able to afford housing. It's I don't, there are some other options, partnering up with friends or family members or whatever, but even all of those, to me, maybe it's cynical, but I kind of feel maybe it's just realistic. I can't help but kind of look at, there are other ways to be able to afford houses. I guess there's grants and there's first homeowner schemes and all that shit, but I can't help but look at it and think these things are kind of just, they're the only way it's possible for a lot of people to buy, and it kind of inevitably means that you're buying beyond your means, and it's not to that's just my opinion on it, and it's like, if you've managed to do that, that's great. Like, if that's working for you, that's awesome. But I think just for me, like, it just felt too scary to try and go for one of those schemes, those like low deposit schemes or anything, and then be locked into this house or apartment or whatever I could potentially get, like, be locked into it for 30 years or so. I think, like, the essence of it is, like, I think a lot of people are buying just because they're seeing how things are going, and they're like, if I don't buy now, then I'll never be able to. So kind of buying out of fear, if it's at all possible for them to buy. And I think that's kind of dangerous. Like, it's dangerous incentivizing people towards that, because we don't know what could happen. Like, I don't want to lock myself into a commitment that means I need to earn a certain amount every week for the rest of my life, essentially. Like, because, like, I don't want to plan that far ahead. I don't know what I want to be doing and like, I don't want to be restricted by those kinds of things. Like, I don't know. I think, to me, I'm just like, it feels like kind of a scam. But on the other hand, I'm like, I can see the logic in it. I'm like, it makes sense to me why people are doing it. But just for me personally, and I think probably surely for other people too, it's like, I'm looking at it and I'm like, this just doesn't make sense. So I started looking at other options, and I've been looking into, like, van life and van dwelling, that sort of thing, for on and off for a long time. I feel like even before the pandemic. So I kind of have always been interested in other options outside of just the typical, like, work, save, buy a house or an apartment or whatever. I looked into, like, buying a boat, and getting a space to moor it. Is that the word? I think it's, yeah. So that I could, like, live out of the boat maybe, and just, like, keep it in one spot, and essentially just use it as a home. I looked into that for a little bit. That seems kind of achievable. But I think the van option made the most practical sense to me anyway. So I guess for context, like, about 6 months ago, maybe, like, it was probably a little bit longer than 6 months ago, I was feeling extremely burnt out with my work. I'm a hairdresser by trade. And I really enjoy my job a lot, but I do kind of have a limited social battery, and I can get overwhelmed fairly easily too. Like, salon environments typically can be quite, like, overstimulating and stressful, and I was just really getting to a point where I was super stressed and anxious, and like, thinking about going into work, I was starting to get really, like, sick to my stomach, and my heart would beat really rapidly, and, like, I was just kind of, I've never quite got to that point with work before, but I think it's just a cumulative effect of me kind of pushing through it until I got to a point where my body just kind of gave up for me. And I ended up leaving the job basically with no notice, essentially. I was just like, I'm really sorry, but I can't do it anymore. So I was kind of stuck. I do have some family that I could reach out to, but I personally just don't. Maybe I'll get into it in some separate video or something, but essentially I wasn't really looking at that as an option. So I was kind of stuck. I wasn't working. I didn't have a huge amount of savings. I still had rent to pay, and I was like probably the most depressed that I can remember being, or at least since like I was a teenager, maybe. I was really in a bad spot. And at some point, I think I just realized I need to do something to kind of get myself out of this. Little dog coming up. You coming over? Hi. Maybe a bit of a heavy part to get distracted. But yeah, I was in a bit of a tough spot, and I felt that my options were kind of limited, and I really needed to make a decision. I don't know what specifically it was that triggered it. I think I'd been thinking a lot, and I'd spend a lot of time thinking, and then I just woke up one morning and I was like, all right, I have to do something. I have to take control back into my hands, to control the things in the present, at least, the things that I can actually physically kind of impact. So I was looking online at vans. I was just looking on Facebook Marketplace, and I didn't have a huge amount of money to spend. But I ended up finding one. I got really, really lucky, honestly. I found it's a Mitsubishi Express, 2002, small, but big enough. It had been kitted out to be a camper van for weekends. So I like I said, I got incredibly lucky, really, that the foundation was already kind of there for it. I'm not super handy, I would say, with tools, so I was quite lucky that this already kind of came with a bed frame in there with some storage underneath, a bit of a pull-out section that had a fridge, and a solar panel and a deep cycle battery. I got all that for about, I think it was a bit less than $6,000 Australian. I'm not sure what that is US, but yeah. I guess my van is not. It's not like the typical kind of Sprinter van that a lot of the time you see in van life videos and all that. It's kind of just big enough to make it livable and comfortable, at least for me. I think maybe a lot of my friends have kind of mentioned that they might kind of struggle living so small, but for me, I think it's been perfect. But I'll get more into that a little bit later. So yeah, I took out all my savings and I bought this van. I went and checked it out. I had never really driven manual as well, and it just struggled my way getting it home, but I managed. So the things I did myself were the insulation. I got my a lovely friend Morgan, to help me out with that, and we did it together, and we insulated it. We put some walls in the back of the van so that I couldn't knock the insulation around while I was sleeping. I did some little things I tinted the back window. I made some little curtains for it. One's with like a magnetic strip, and then the other is like a Velcro sort of thing. I'd definitely more recommend the Velcro. The magnets have not really worked as well as I'd hoped, but they're still fine. They're still up and functional. So, but probably something I'll replace later. So just the little kind of modifications. That's what I did. But there are a lot of resources on YouTube if you have to do more than that yourself. If you're looking at getting into something like this. The battery, I've personally, like, I think I work best when everything is as simple as possible, really. Like, my life before this was really feeling like I was spinning a lot of plates, and like I was not doing a good job of like most of them. I'm 27. I'm an adult, and I think there was probably a lot of shame. Well, yeah, there is, and is still, I guess, like a lot of shame in that for me. Like, I feel like I've never been quite good at a lot of the things that seem quite like natural to other people around my age. For instance, I guess staying on top of cooking for myself and cleaning my house and doing my laundry, all those things, like, I would just put off a lot, and I don't know, they'd stress me out. And like, I really value my free time a lot, and when I was feeling quite burnt out in work anyway, it made it really quite hard to get myself to do a lot of those things. So for me, the van has kind of helped a lot with those sorts of tasks. Everything is smaller, it's more condensed, and that means for me it's like just easier to manage. So in the space of a month, I basically, the day that I decided on getting the van, I told my housemate, I was like, I'm really sorry, like I am gonna be moving out of here. Like, we'll discuss options, we'll figure out whether, you know, she wanted to stay and get a new housemate there, or whether we wanted to just end the lease. We figured that stuff out. I was on a periodic lease, so I could just kind of end it whenever I wanted and give the amount of notice that I needed to give. I can't even remember what it was now, but I think it was, this all kind of took place in about the space of a month, because I realized, like, I'm like, this is how much money I have. I can make some money just cutting hair from home while I'm here, and then I need to just go, like, otherwise I'm gonna run out of money, essentially. So in that month, I just packed up basically the whole house. My housemate helped me a lot too, and her partner. I got a lot of help from friends. Packed up the house. I sold all the shit that I didn't need, or gave it away, or I put some things in a bit of storage. And then I was left with what would fit into 8 of these little storage boxes that I got from Bunnings. And I kind of divvied them up into what I really needed to, or what I kind of thought I really needed to live my life. So it was pretty like hectic, but it was quite like freeing as well, actually, like just going through everything that I owned and really asking myself, like, what do I actually need out of this stuff. And yeah, it was quite like a tight time frame, but it worked out. Like, I made it work. So that's like a bit of my story anyway.